Hey everybody, welcome to Week 6 in Review, brought to you this week by Target. Hey Pac-Man, I heard they're taking applications. You should head on down. We'll start out as always with our game of the week. This week we had a come-from-behind victory from Master Killer over Big Daddy. Master Killer ends up winning that game 73-67. Big Daddy got off to a slow start, but after a 321-yard, 3-touchdown, 30-point effort by Romo, he found himself with a slight lead headed into Monday Night Football. Master Killer, though, broke out his secret weapon, the return of Plexico Burress. Burress responded with 58 yards and a touchdown for 11 points, and wrapping up the win for Master Killer. Others in double digits for Master Killer included Steve Breaston. I said Breast. We're filling in for the injured Anquan Bolden. He had 18 on 102 yards and a touchdown. Cutler had 17, and the Texans' D had 10. For Big Daddy, the only other player other than Romo to reach double digits was Ernest Graham with 11 points. The loss for Big Daddy secures his worst record in the league at 1-5. Big Daddy, the Monkeys, said you should give them a call. They'll tell you how they felt when they were that low last year. Speaking of the Monkeys, they fell to the Chili Dogs this week. 102-90. The Monkeys had a nice outing but couldn't top one of the three teams to break 100 this week. For the Dogs, it was the second win in a row, and that combined with Mr. Bill's Gang's third loss in a row moved the defending champion to a tie for first with Mr. Bill's Gang at 3-3 in the Stewie division. The Dogs had 4 in double digits, with Peyton Manning breaking out for 28 points on 3 touchdowns versus our Ravens. Portis again having another huge day. This time we had 27 points this week on 129 yards and 2 touchdowns. Reggie Bush had 18 with a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown. And Calvin Johnson had 12. I'm sure that the Dogs are waiting to see what's going to happen this coming weekend as Calvin Johnson heads out to the football field without Roy Williams on the other side. It's going to improve, or is it going to get worse? Is he going to pull in more double coverage? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see on that one. The Monkeys had 5 in double digits, led by the Buccaneer defense with 22, including a defensive touchdown and 3 INTs. Warner had 17. Warwick Dunn, yes, that Warwick Dunn, had 14 on 115 yards, and Fitzgerald had 13, and LT had 11. Going into the weekend, I think we all assumed the big game looked to be Cats with Guns versus Clash City Rockers. The Rockers jumped out to an early big lead in this one and never looked back. Final score, Rockers 103, Cats 82. The Rockers saw 4 reach double digits with a huge game by Thomas Jones leading the way. Jones had 25 points on 78 yards from scrimmage and 3 touchdowns. Roddy White had 112 receiving yards and a touchdown. The Jets D had 17, as did Kyle Orton. Cats also had 4 in double digits with 19 from Gore. Reggie Wayne and Ronnie Brown had 15 each. The Redskins D had 12. High score this week belongs to the Pilot Lights. They topped the Pitons 122-84. The win puts the Lights into the number 1 spot in the power rankings. 5 finished in double digits for the Lights, led by the third 30-plus point outing for Drew Brees. Brees had 32 points this week on 320 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. Marion Barber had 24. Marvin Harrison dropped 20 again on the hometown Ravens, including 2 touchdowns. The Cards defense had 19 with 2 defensive touchdowns, and in that same game, Kading had 12 points. Pitons had 4 in double digits with the Saints D contributing 18. Elam and Forte had 16, and Jennings had 14. Jennings has been in double digits every week except for week 1. He had 9 points in that week. Also Forte, double digits all but 1 week. Great starts by both of those players. Moving on, Super Simon and the Headbangers both finished the weekend with records of 2-4. In order to do that, Simon had to win. He did. It was 94-67 was the final, and that's that game. Simon had 4 in double digits, led by MJD with 28 on 125 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. McNabb had 21, Akers 16, and Steve Smith had 13 without punching out any teammates. The Headbangers tied Big Daddy for the low score of the week at that 67. 3 reached double digits, including the Eagles defense with 17, Garrard with 15, and Brandon Jacobs with 12. The Loose Cannons stayed on the Rockers' heels in the Quagmire division as they handed Mr. Bill, as I mentioned earlier, his third loss in a row, 92-70. Loose Cannons had 3 in double digits, including A-Rod with 26, including 3 touchdowns, one of which was a rushing touchdown. Andre Johnson had 27 on 178 receiving yards and a TD, and Crosby chipped in 11. Mr. Bill's gang also had 3 in double digits, led by the Vikings D, which had 20. Jamal had 14, and Chris Brown had kicked in 11. Mr. Bill needs to shake up his coaching a little bit. He left Rivers on the bench with 32, Buckhalter with 23. He puts those 2 guys in his starting rotation. He easily blows by Loose Cannons. Like I said, because of that loss to Loose Cannons, he drops to number 4 in power rankings and into a first place tie now with the Dogs in the Stewie division. So that wraps up week 6. Looking ahead, we've got a couple of big games again this week. Cats with Guns in the middle of a murderous schedule faces Loose Cannons, both teams trying to stay close to their divisional leaders. The Chili Dogs will try to take the lead in the Stewie division as they face the scrappy Pitons. And Mr. Bill's gang will try to get back to his winning ways and get a little healthy against rookie Big Daddy. In the Pick'ems this week, the Rockers increased their lead by 1 game as they were one of 3 teams to go 4-2. The Pitons are number 2 at 21 points. The Dogs and Headbangers are tied for 3rd with 20. And hats off to Cats with Guns and Big Daddy, who both managed to make their picks this week. Unfortunately, combined, the 2 of them got 1 point. I can't even make that stuff up. That was just horrible. How could someone get every single game wrong? That was terrible. Anyway, that's it. Week 6 is in the books. Next week, week 7, we're already halfway through our regular season, believe it or not. So we got some great games coming up this week. We might see some spreading out in some of these divisions that are very, very close right now. Hopefully some of the lower range teams will break into the win column again. And we'll catch up with you next week. Talk to you later. Bye.